and record for us. Okay, we're going to take just a couple of minutes to go through some, kind of administrative things. We'll take attendance based on who is here, obviously, and we are planning to not spend any more than 90 minutes on this meeting. I'm not entirely certain if we might end a few minutes early, as the timed meeting actually goes for 80 minutes, or if we may have to put something off because we end up having more conversation. So we will end the call at in 90 minutes at the outside. We don't have minutes or notes from a previous meeting because this is the first one, so we don't need to do that. Are there any short announcements that anyone wants to make for anything outside of this group, but that you think this group would want to hear? Nope. Okay, excellent. And I'd like to schedule our, oh, I'm sorry, Patricia, go ahead.
I just want to say that I'm working on the compassionate living circles connected to a prayer for compassion and interfaith vegan coalition, and we're all embracing, I'm introducing sociocracy and working to connect that with the whole base camp and Vida climate healers and everything. So I'm excited.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. All right, and I'd like to schedule our next meeting at the end of this meeting so that we have a sense of how often we want to meet and how to do that. So has everyone seen the agenda? I know it just came out 30 minutes ago or so, 45 minutes ago. Has everyone seen it, taken a look at it? Are there any questions about the agenda? Reactions, comments?
None on my end.
I'm sorry, Shankar, I did not hear that. Can you say that again?
Yeah, I saw the agenda. So far, no questions. Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. Then can we have consent to use this agenda for today's meeting?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And we're well within our time frame, so this is beautiful, moving right along. Okay, and I just did want to make the comment that the idea of consent simply means that you don't have an objection, and that whatever it is that you're consenting to is good enough for now and safe enough to try. Those are sociocracy ideas, and we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for things that are good enough for now and safe enough to try. Okay, now we want to move into the purpose of today's meeting and to discussion about this. So we tried to put into writing a bit of what we're attempting to do. So this is a subgroup, and in sociocracy language, this is a circle, a sub-circle of the Vegan World 2026 Collective Intelligence Circle. So the purpose of the meeting today is to present the idea of using sociocracy as our governance method within the collective intelligence group and potentially in all of Vegan World 2026. But I want to make a couple of things really, really clear. No decisions have yet been made about any of this. I'm really excited about it. So my passion might show. That's mine. I own it. It's not, that isn't about everybody. So I'll try and slow that down a little bit. What I'm learning about sociocracy, I really, really like. And I think it would be a great thing, but there's plenty of other methods. I've used many of them. So there are other options that we can think about and try. So please don't take my enthusiasm for like, oh yeah, we've already done this. We haven't. And every one of us is one of us. And that's how much our voices count, right? I mean, everyone needs to speak and all of our needs will be met. So I bought this book, which I will show, Many Voices, One Song. This is from Sociocracy for All, which spoke to me. I liked what I saw written about it, so I purchased it. I'm beginning to read it. It's, I think, an excellent resource. And so I just took some of the things out of the book, out of the very beginning of the book, that I thought spoke to us in our collective intelligence group and to Vegan World 2026, just to give people an idea of the philosophy behind sociocracy. So I don't know if we want to actually read these, or if we just want to make sure that everyone has taken a look at them, or if we want to have just a little bit of conversation about any of those things. Would anyone like to react to any of that or share anything about those ideas?
I think it's good to have like a bibliography available that we all are agreeing into reading some sort of like in a book club kind of thing. So we are reading the same page, and that we also have options of seeing so many other tools, including sociocracy, in the VCI tool library, you know. So it appeals to different tastes of learning, and yeah, I like the proposal. But as you said, like not mandatory, no? Like it's just a suggested reading. Excellent.
And anybody else?
I would say I do have that book somewhere. I took a class from them. I wasn't totally happy. However, I love their materials. I mean, I was disappointed by how the class was, facilitated. But yeah, I like that. I like that book, and also want to consider that sociocracy isn't. There is the sociocracy 3.0, which kind of draws a circle around everything, and it maybe we want to look more at sociocracy 3.0 because it includes sociocracy but adds some other ideas that are make it's almost like harder to object to by people, if that makes sense.
Again, and there's holacracy. I mean, there's a number of methodologies that we could take a look at. So our proposal today is that we take put a toe in the water, you know, just try something to see what we think about it, and begin to become familiar with sociocracy and proceed from there. And it might be to 3.0, and it might be to something completely different. So we think that, well, again, lots of people learn in different ways. I'm a reader. I want to read about things first, then I want to do it. Other people want to watch. Watching webinars and tutorials and things that are online, for me, is not nearly as good as reading. I want the real book. I'm still like, I want the real thing, and I want to read it. Lots of other people want to see the videos. That's the way they want to do it. Other people want to talk about it. Other people want to just do it and not do any of those things beforehand. Every one of us is different, and different about different things. So we're suggesting that we try something, and people are welcome to do their own research, join us in some of the research we're doing. I mean, there's just all sorts of ways that we can do this. So the first thing
saying
that we
something about Patricia's when I hear sociocracy 3.0, it automatically makes sense to me, because since it's open source, it keeps evolving, and that's beautiful.
Absolutely, and it likely is going to keep evolving, right? So.
Yes, and I'm connected to the people. The James Priest, I've communicated with him some, and just really, there's a spiritual element too that they bring forth that is so in alignment with what we're doing. I feel the spirit of their presentation, or James especially, as a psychologist and a kind of a therapist, and a oneness person. I really just would like to I'm just gonna say, I don't want to it's like when you say sociocracy, let's try sociocracy. Hey, sociocracy is a part of sociocracy 3.0. So I'm not objecting to that.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. So the first thing that I wanted to do was to ask us to agree to use the consent method as our decision-making method. So I literally want us to say, I consent to using consent, which seems like a silly thing, but it doesn't, on the other hand, that is the way that we are going to make decisions. So do we want to have some conversation about using consent? We've been doing it from the very beginning that I've been involved about the recordings. You know, we've used that consent about that, and we've been using it about the agendas for the last few meetings. And so I'm just asking if we want to consent to using consent about everything.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we do that, like Jorge did this, I think the other day, about if you consent this, if you have a somewhat of an issue this, and if you definitely don't this, just while we're talking about it, I don't know if we could bring that up in this. How will we show this, this, and this is a revisit, and this is a, okay, we can't move forward?
Yes. So thumbs up means I consent, like period, I consent. This means I've got some objections and I want to either make a change or I want to have a discussion or something. And this means, no, I'm not consenting at this point. At least that's how I understand it. And for those of you who have had more experience, please jump in. And so my understanding further is that when there are objections, then we continue on until those objections have been removed from the conversation. So we keep going until the person is satisfied. We add something, we delete something, we change something, whatever it is that needs to happen. So to use the agenda as an example, if someone had an objection because they wanted to add something, then we would go back and add that, and then the person would likely change to consent with no qualifications. Is that?
I think the only thing missing is questions. So I don't know if this should be objection or questions.
Right. It could be clarifying questions. Well, any kind of question. Right. Absolutely.
So one of the first things we do is see if we have a proposal, is to see if there's any clarifying questions, because those questions might overcome the objections. That's what I understand.
Right.
So no, we've already naturally done that. Jessica had a question, and so that might be a good thing to say. Is there any questions about the proposal that we're putting forth? And then, are there any objections? I mean, and then do you consent? Or no, wait a minute. Well, I think what we're saying is if everybody consents, no, oh gosh. Yeah, just ask if there's questions first, and then maybe do the hand signals.
Right, and it seems like for a number of things, it could work in either way. So for some things that are really simple, like the agenda or like the recording, yes, for the consent. And if someone has a question or an objection, it comes up then. The next thing that we're going to talk about, I would not begin to ask for consent until after we have a whole bunch of conversation, because there are way too many questions. So on the agenda, it kind of looks like I'm asking at the beginning, but I'm not. I'm setting it up. We're going to ask this question. Now we're going to have all this conversation, and then we're going to actually ask the question at the end of the time. And that seems to make more sense and to be in line with the whole methodology, if that makes sense to everybody.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it also goes in rounds, such as the opening phrase that we contributed. So everybody gets a chance to visually signal it.
Right, and again, my understanding is we're going to use rounds when we have something bigger. With the agenda, again, it seems like it's a simpler thing so we can get through it more quickly. And people still have the opportunity to slow that down in case we do need to have more conversation about it. All right. Okay. So, did that satisfy your question, Jessica? Yes. Okay. So can we go ahead and do a consent?
You were muted. That
I
last
was muted. I'm talking right along and I was muted, right? So can we see either a thumbs up, sideways, or down for using consent? Okay. Everybody has agreed to that. Okay. So now for really the biggest part of our conversation today, which is that we want to propose that we use a proposal forming process that Jorge sent out to everyone to take a look at the VCI's vision, mission, aims, and culture. And I'd like to ask Jorge to put that up and share that on his screen as we talk through it so that everyone can see. And then we'll go through each tab and talk about how it is we see this working. And then we will have discussion in rounds and questions. Does that make sense? All right.
Does that work?
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's working perfectly on my screen. Is it working? It is working for everyone else's screen. Okay.
I can see.
So I'm gonna talk through this, Jorge, only because again, it helps in my learning. And then I would like for you and Patricia to jump in to clarify things, and then we'll do a round and have more questions and conversation. So this is a process where we're going to think about, and develop the language for the VCI, vision, mission, aims, and culture within Vegan World 2026. And the way that we would go about doing that is that we would use this document, or one very, very similar to this, in which we first collect questions. So everyone, can you move to the collect question? Yeah, right there. Okay. So the first thing that we do is we begin to collect questions. And Jessica, you had put a document out that people have been adding a bunch of questions to. We would move them over here. And we would add the question. We would add the name of the person who has the question. And eventually we would have a category, but we wouldn't do that right at the very beginning, would we, Jorge? There's a category.
Correct. Like the category is for facilitating the next step, which is synthesizing.
Right. Okay. All right. So we collect the questions here, and then we move to synthesizing them, because it could be that the same question gets asked in a multitude of ways. It could be that there's overlap, and so if we change a question a bit, we can have one question that brings three of them in, or whatever. And so we move to synthesizing. And once we have synthesized the questions, then we get to answer the questions.
And in between those steps, we get to put our names here. For example, if I'm the only one, then this doesn't make much sense, but I would put Jorge here. And then I object to my question. It's a joke. Okay. And then it shows here, no? How many objections, how many consents, and consents with concerns. So it is technology serving to facilitate this process, considering that we're going to be a lot of people asking a lot of questions.
And different people can, I mean, the same person could answer the question, right? You could have a question that you went and researched and you answer it, or other people can come in and answer the question. So,
yeah, and sorry, to clarify, this consent is to the list. Like, for example, if we start collecting the questions on the 28th, which is the VCI meeting, right? Then we set up a consent by date. So it's kind of like an expiration date for that action of asking all the questions. So we would put here whatever we decide, like maybe 2 days, 3 days, a week, whatever. And you say February 3rd would be the 0302 20, right? 2020. So everybody knows that by this date, they should finish asking questions and then consent with concerns, or object to the list. And they can have comments here, no? To that.
and so, so an example to objecting to a question might be, and I'm making this up, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but an objection might be, I don't think that question belongs in this group. It doesn't have anything to do with vision, mission, or aims, or culture. It has to do with something else. I think it has to do with this thing over there.
Yeah, well, I'm still on step 1, on collecting questions. So this would be for consenting on the whole list right now.
Oh, on the whole list, not on individual questions.
Correct. So, for example, Jorge consented to the list, objected, sorry. And then Anne consented, right?
Okay.
So I can put here like comments, whatever, no? I don't like that film, which I do. I like the film. No? I like What the Hell. But that would be my concern. So everybody can read, okay, Jorge objected because he doesn't like the film, right? And then Anne consented, she likes the film, so there's no sense to put a comment. And here we have an automatic way to say, okay, we have so many consents. That doesn't mean that it's the system of majority. It's just like to have a easy way to see, no, how many people consented. Consented with concerns classifies account for consent, because concerns are usually cleared after a couple of clarifying questions. So yes, now, as Sam said, we move to the synthesize. Yeah, and synthesize, it's again, no, to be completed by and consented by.
And the reason for those dates is just so that this isn't open-ended and people don't think that, you know, they can come back a month from now and participate, that there's a timeline so that we can actually move forward and get this work done.
Okay, and here in the priority, for the sake of this exercise that we're talking about proposing to the VCI on Tuesday, right now we're saying essential, reasonably important, not so important, and no longer relevant. Maybe no longer relevant because it's included in another question, right? So there's no sense to keep it for the next step. And since we're doing vision, mission, aims, and culture, that would be a proposed straightforward way to classify the questions. Which questions are vision related, which questions are mission related, which questions are aim related, and which questions are culture related. This doesn't need to be known by the people asking questions. This is a filter after all the questions are typed or contributed by everybody that wants to be involved. And here again, who is the contributor? And then a space for, is the synthesized list consented? And it's the same process as we saw on step 1. So it is very easy to follow the process, right? Like each step includes a consent round.
Well, okay, so then the fourth, we'll do the whole spreadsheet, and then we'll have a round of conversation. So, and hopefully that's the right way to go. So then there's forming the proposal.
Sorry, the answer questions is here.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
After
I
you
skipped
have
a step.
after you have the consented, synthesized list of questions, then you can put, okay, to be completed by this date, who are the contributors, and then consented by, and in which date. So you have the list of questions here, the original question number, the consolidated response. This is very important, right? Because now that you have the final list of questions, you start to need to answer each one of them. So this list would be a good way to start to do that. For example, if we have the question, how are we meant to treat each other? No? Okay. So maybe Jorge wants to be part of the answering of that question. Also, Jessica. Let me move this. And there's more places, no? Like there's more spaces to have the names of everybody that wants to be part of the answering questions team, if that's a way to address us. So we can say, using NVC with collaboration, whatever, no? And then Jessica would say something else, no? Yes, we are meant to treat each other respectfully. So you can see for each question, how many different ways to approach how are we going to treat each other, and then by a wordsmith action, put the consolidated response here. And this is all logged, so everybody can see, okay, like, why my question was not answered the way I wanted. Okay, maybe because you were not part of answering it, so it stays open, no? To say, okay, these two people answered this question, and if you want to add something, you would be welcome. But it needs to be within the time frame that we are going to set by the dates up here. I don't know if my pointer is being seen in the, yeah?
It is on mine.
Okay, so everybody that is involved, even if they don't have privileges to edit the Excel file, they can still look at it and make comments. Hey, I looked at the answers and I'm not satisfied with the answers. So I would like to become a contributor to the answering team, or here's the answer that I would expect to be included in the consolidated response. Something like that. And then, okay, sorry for making these long pauses. And then once you have the questions answered and consented, you have, again, the same process here, you know, who consented or who objected, blah, 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 and then move to proposal with the same system to be completed by this date, the names of the contributors, consented by date, name, proposal. The proposal would be, for example, visions, right? And the proposal of that vision should be comprised by the categorized questions of vision answered by in the answered questions. So the proposal would come to be very easy to write up, including all of those answers. And then consent to the list of vision, mission, aims, and culture proposals. And again, no? Name, consent with concerns or object, comments, and then we have a final count and we have a proposal. Yay! That's the way the proposal would be formed, and then it needs to be presented, right? That's a part of the process that goes into the sociocratic round of, okay, this is a proposal, we consent with concerns, or object. That's not part of the Excel file.
So at this point, I'm thinking that before we move on to some more specifics, or maybe we do the specific examples. I included some examples that I took off of the About page for Climate Healers, just to show some ways to think about vision, mission, aims, and then culture, so that people would have an idea in their mind about what it is that we're trying to do. We believe that this is the first step to being able to do everything else. So like, it feels to me like we had jumped ahead a bit to say, we're going to have these subgroups that are going to do this work, because we hadn't done this. And thank you, Jorge, for helping us to see that really clearly. And this seems to me to be a pretty easy way. It's not really easy, but a very clear way to put all of this information together, so that we can move through it in a decent time frame, give people time to be able to respond, but not take tons and tons of time. And it really reduces the amount of back and forth conversation that needs to take place, because it's taking place on paper. So, and we would like to invite everyone on Basecamp to participate in doing this. And who chooses to do that will be up to them, but we would like to invite everyone to participate, to get as much input as we can possibly get on this. So how about if we open this up to a round of discussion, and we'll just go, I mean, we're a small enough group, I don't know that I really need to call people out here, but I'd like to hear everyone's voice on what they think about using this for the purpose of the vision, mission, aims, and culture, and to taking this to the full VCI meeting on Tuesday to present. So
sorry, should I keep the sharing screen? Is that useful for everybody? Like, to, in case you want to talk about it?
Would people like that to stay up, or do you want to?
Okay.
Okay. And
I'll
if there's something,
I'll keep it up until you tell me otherwise.
Right. And if anyone wants to go back to a different screen, just as you start to talk, tell Jorge, hey, can you please take us back to the collecting questions screen, or whatever it is that you want to do. So who would like to start? Okay, Jessica.
I think it looks great. I just have one thing about the inviting everyone in Basecamp, and that is a lot of people have turned off their notifications. So I think, and Ray is not in this meeting. I know I think he's in the VCI. So I believe that Ray has the ability to easily email everyone in Basecamp. So is that going to be the method of inviting everyone? Is Ray will email everyone? Otherwise, I don't know that everyone would see it.
I wonder whether are there a lot of, this may be a question for you, Jessica. Do you think there are a lot of people who've turned off their notifications who would still want to be involved?
There may be, because I recently turned off my notifications because with some pings, pings I still get notified, so it wasn't that. Something was happening very recently where I was getting like many emails every day. And so I turned mine off. So, but, so now I go up to the hey at the top and I can see everything and,
Okay.
so forth. But I think there could, even if it's not a lot of people, even if it's just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people who would be interested, they still wouldn't get it unless they got that email. So.
Yeah,
used to be a lot.
I have something to add here. When sending out the host invites for the Pinky Promise Tour, I posted it in the main Basecamp section, and then Ray did send out the email as well. And I did get a few responses from that email. So I think it's worth a shot, just to expand our reach if possible.
And
or to ask Ray. Sorry.
And it's just kind of the right thing to do, right? Like to take one extra step and try and make sure that everyone has the opportunity to participate. And so we do that. You know, maybe eventually when there's 1,000 people on Basecamp, maybe we say people are responsible for checking Basecamp. But we're new enough that that might not be ingrained yet. So I'd want to ask him to do that. And if he's got some problem doing it or there's some reason not to, we can try and figure that out. But yes. All right, Jessica, do you have more?
No.
Okay, thank you. Patricia?
I was thinking that this email could be really useful and anytime he sends out, he probably will want to limit how many emails he sends out, both because of his time and we don't want people to start getting more emails they don't want. So if he could put something about, we're really wanting, you know, we've got big new things happening, this is how you can handle your notifications so you're not overwhelmed, and any other important information, you know, we really want to include you so that it becomes a multi-purpose email.
Yeah, and he probably has some idea about the reaction that he gets from people when sending out and how often he does those things, and we can just remind him. All right, anything else, Patricia? Any other comments or questions or anything that you have?
Well, I was still on that, I guess we're on that specific topic of the email, and I'm wondering if my suggestion, I'm hearing that you assume that he has something to send, and yet I am feeling that it's pretty important that maybe something's even written up to give to him so he doesn't have to do that. So I'm wondering how that works in this process where this is a little this is related to how do we send this out? How do we get people buying in on it? I guess that's a proposal in a way. It's a little, Jorge, or does I'm not sure how to include, you know, how that feels. So when I heard you say, well, I'm sure he knows, I felt a little uneasy because it sounded like that suggestion wasn't going to be given to him specifically.
No, I'm sorry, Patricia. I said that about him understanding the reaction he gets from people from sending too many emails. And I would never expect someone to have to write something up on their own for something that we wanted to send them. So we would definitely put together the email that went out. So when Suzanne was just talking about sending out the Pinky Promise Tour information, she did that work. And I contributed a bit to that work. We put that together. She gave it to him and he sent it out. So this group, and or perhaps someone from the larger VCI group, although I kind of see this as this group's purview, we would put something together. And at this point, I would guess we would do it after we go Tuesday night to the VCI group and get their consent to move forward with this. And then we would put together an email that said, this is what we're doing, and we really want to hear from you, and this is how you can participate, and tell them where it is. And you know, we can either ask someone to do that, or we can put it together and send it out to everyone to review before we give it to Ray. and take a couple days to just put that together. So no, I think I was just answering a different piece, knowing that he has experience sending out the emails and getting responses from people. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
And I would have liked to have just added, I feel confused, I mean, I think I said that. I was just confused. And yeah, so thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it.
Is there anything else, not specifically related to the email, but to the whole process that you would like to question or share or respond to?
Is it useful to have the agenda on the screen, or am I making you dizzy?
We certainly can put the agenda on the screen if someone would like to have it on the screen.
Am I sharing it right now or not?
You're sharing the proposal, the spreadsheet.
I'm learning how to use this. Okay.
I'm just wondering if we have somebody keeping time. I think an important part is to see if we're staying on the estimated time, or do we not? Are we just going to spend as much time as we need on each thing so that, and then just, we don't cover the last thing on the agenda?
I'm loosely keeping track of the time, and we're still well within the time frame at this point.
Okay, great.
So
that's a role then that you're taking, the time.
Yes, and I'll tell you that I am not doing it to the minute, but I mean, I know when we need to move so that we will be done, when we need to move to the next thing so that we can be done within the 90 minutes. We've still got another 40 minutes left, if that makes sense.
And I'm also wondering, when you ask, does anybody have any feedback or questions? I think the purpose of the rounds is to just call on people in a certain order, not always the same. I mean, maybe not always the first person's the same first person, but so that when you call on a person, they can feel more invited. It's still a little bit scary sometimes. So well, I have something, but if I don't know, is that
Patricia, at the beginning of this round, I said that I wasn't going to call on people because we were a small group, and I was going to just let people raise their hands and say, I want to talk, but I can certainly go back to the other way to do that. So that's perfectly fine. I will do that.
Okay, I know you said you were going to do that, and then I wasn't sure if I was comfortable, and I want everybody to know I'm not a consent by the book, every detail. I don't feel a need to have everything exactly according to the book. At the same time, perhaps as we're learning, it might be good to use the book to experiment, to kind of, because the rounds are a pretty important part of the consensus process.
Yep. Okay, we'll do that. All right, Shankar?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. More from a question side. I have the agenda with me, so more from a question side. I am trying to see how the parties, the flow between parties, like the proposal means. This one, I'm just trying to see the flow. The sociocracy part, I understood, still trying to understand. Of involvement and everybody consensus group, everything, that part. Two things I'm seeing is more from one from a definition side, like who are the parties, like when they all join the group, how they are, for example, one term we used is the certified climate healer. So that tells me, to some extent, somebody came, they're familiar with some of the onboarding thing and all those. Then depending on their group's interest, they might participate, they might evolve in that way. But here, how we are seeing that part. more from a definitions or more from a member role identification? Then what is the relationship or how they are connecting or this thing? Like, for example, is it a proposal means proposal within groups, or we are proposing externally, or is it something every item that we going to take a decision is called a proposal? Yeah, I'm a little bit not clear on that part.
So I think that we're learning the Shankar, and Jorge and Patricia may be very clear on it, but I don't know the answer to that second question, if everything is considered a proposal or not. So I need to do a little bit more research on that and ask both Patricia and Jorge to answer it. And honestly, I lost the first part of what you were asking because I was thinking about the second part. So either I need someone else to offer an answer, or I need you to ask that again. I'm sorry.
Sure, I can repeat. Like, all I was trying first, one is a definition. Like, a definition means, like, is it going from A to B, something like that? Then what is going between A to B? That's all I was asking.
I'm wondering if your question is asking who decides who's going to do that work of like consolidating and synthesizing and then takes on the task of then moving it forward. I don't know if that's your question. Is that kind of what it is?
Like, yeah, yes, we can say that. Like, more kind of like, you can say, if you're making a small play or a thing, you know the characters in the play, then you know the roles of who is talking to what or who is exchanging between what. So more in that way, I want to know from if we call this as a proposal or in the group, relating to the entire vegan world group, something like what we are trying to do is this a decision engine? Something like that we are calling proposal, or like what is the flow here?
Okay, so I think this will be part of the answer to your question, and then you tell me if you need like an expansion to it. Shankar, the whole idea of sociocracy is that it is an ecosystemic. I know that this is too technical, but ecosystemic means that it's not about how one group or one study group or one task force organize themselves. It is about interconnecting as a ecosystem, all of them. And the one circle that connects all of these other groups and task forces and whatever is going to be, in the case of implementing sociocracy, the VCI circle. So I will speak about an example of the vegan permaculture study group. In that group, if we come up with something that will serve the purpose of being part of the Vegan World 2026, then we will call that a proposal that is going to be presented to the VCI. And the way that we organize that inside of the vegan permaculture study group could include something like the process that we are talking about today. It depends on the magnitude. Let's say if we want to go and meet on Zoom, then we use Doodle. We don't use sociocracy to get on a meeting. Sociocracy is a tool, so it shouldn't be involved in every aspect. It is where it is useful. So for a proposal's sake, it comes useful. And then that proposal is presented such as the proposal that we are working on this session. I think that's the best I can do to answer, but tell me if it was useful or it needs an expansion.
Sure. Yeah, I was definitely able to visualize. I see a thing, and I agree also it's an evolving thing. Like that is why we are all here. So it doesn't mean I was not looking for any concrete answer, more from extracting or developing the abstract. So yes, I'm fine. I got a picture. So I would start learning more, referring things from here. Thank you.
All right, Benjamin, you're not on my screen anymore. Actually, Jorge, can you stop sharing so that we can go back? There we go, beautiful. Thank you. Benjamin, are you ready with either questions or comments or reactions?
Our internet was out for a bit, so we came back in the middle of this discussion. Can we get sorry about that. Can we get a quick?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't even realize, because you were lined up on the right side and your picture was off my screen. So I didn't even know that you were gone. I'm so sorry.
We were only gone for 5 minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, so we're doing a round where we're sharing reactions, questions, comments, thoughts about this proposal to use the spreadsheet with the multi-tabs to come up with the vision, mission, aims, and culture for the VCI. And so this is just your turn to do that. Oh, whoops. And their internet is, oh, you're back again.
Oh,
there, yeah. No, I got everything you were saying. So far for me, it seems, I forgot the statement already. Good enough to try. Is that, what was I forgot the first half of it.
Good enough for now and safe enough to try.
I combined the two.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm feeling right now. I would love to try this out. I guess my only question would be, where do we locate the file? Yeah, that would be my main question.
Right, and the file has to be located someplace where all 300 people can get to it. So for me, that's a question to go to Ray and say, where is the best place to put this where all 300 people in Basecamp will be able to get to it in the easiest way possible. So I don't feel capable of answering the question now because I don't think we have the information. But, all right, and Suzanne?
I also feel like this spreadsheet, that the proposal to use this spreadsheet is good enough for now and safe enough to try.
Jorge, do you want to take your round?
Short, yeah, like let's go for it.
Okay, cool. I'm very satisfied. I'm very interested in trying it out, see what happens, learn as we go, and then, make the next decision. We're making one decision that will have something to do with the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how that works. So can we go ahead and do a consent to use the proposal, to go to VCI with the proposal to use the spreadsheet as it was described here today? Oh, Patricia? Oh, you're still muted.
I was thinking the round would just go to everyone, but because I was hoping I could have something to say. So I guess I'm not ready.
Okay.
I just wondered, I really love the idea. The question I have is, who are the people who will be doing the things like synthesizing, watching the date? Is that something to ask now? Is that appropriate? Or should I just say, is that more for the implementation part? Because I guess I would say I consent to this on the grounds that, that I know that who's going to implement it. I mean, I just want to know how it's going to be, implemented. That's all. So that would be my concern, which isn't enough for me to object. So I say I consent.
So I would think that we would want to go back to the VCI group to see if anyone wants to participate in doing that. And if not, if no one from the larger VCI group wants to participate, then it would fall to us. And I know that I will raise my hand to do that. And there may be other people here who will also raise their hands to do that. But there could be people on the larger VCI. So I'd like to ask them. Does anyone else have another answer that they would like to offer?
Yes. I'm thinking more this is like a Senate or a House or whatever, like more, it looks like if large members are there, the voting could be an option. Probably we can give a ANA or options, and Google Docs is one such. Google Docs means through Google Survey. Anything is also quicker. I mean, that will give you a quick answer. We can give a deadline like, hey, one day we're taking it. That's more from a sociocracy, I'm saying. Everybody's involved. So we're giving options. And we say, hey, one day is there. We're gonna, we have this, we're gonna take a decision on this. Everybody's involvement is there. And we expect you to post your answers by this day. And if you don't post, we will take it as yes. So, so we can do that, and at this point, people will, whoever is interested on the topic might slowly participate, and if somebody doesn't participate, they're already okay with the decision.
Yeah, I think all of that needs to be spelled out very clearly in the email that we send to everyone.
Okay.
And all of those are good ideas to make sure that we're doing that. And Jessica, Jessica is asking a question. Do you want to jump back in here, Jessica? And ask this question? I think you're still muted.
Thank you. It seems like very recently what the VCI will be doing and talking about has become something different, or has become something that is, well, I'll have to say it, has become different. And I don't know if everyone is aware of that. That's one thing. So if everyone could be made aware of that, I think that would be good. Everyone on Basecamp, I mean. And then also the VCI currently meets, I think, based on a day and time that was determined at the Beacon World 2026 conference in 2019. And I don't think it's ever been discussed to change the date or time. And well, for me personally, it happens to be a time that I can't meet. So, and I don't know how many other people that's the case for. So it seems like for this to continue, it seems like things are continuing, things are moving now, things are happening there, and everybody doesn't know, and everybody isn't having a chance to say when they can meet if they want to. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but if things keep moving like this, it's going to be the same people without necessarily getting everyone who might want to be involved being able to be involved.
I went and muted myself instead of unmuting. I don't know. Yeah, and we've talked about, we're definitely going to go back to VCI and ask that question. I don't know if that should be a part of this process or a part of a different process. Like, I feel like we're getting off topic from what we're trying to come to a decision about. So I'd like to finish up the conversation about using the the spreadsheet and this process to determine the vision, mission, and aims and culture, and get a consent, get all of our questions about that and the conversation about that done, and make that consent. And if we have time to move into other things, or we can add those things to our next meeting as a topic for our next meeting, to be able to come back and spend the time on, if that makes sense to everyone.
It does. I just thought it was very relevant here, because it seems like you're asking about if, it seems like we're talking about things that the VCI will do, but not everyone is able to participate currently in that. So it's like saying, here's what's going to happen, but not everyone is getting a chance. You know what I mean? That's why I thought it was relevant here. That's okay if we want to wait on it, but I think things are going to keep moving there without being inclusive of everyone, because of the way when the meetings were planned, is what I mean.
Yeah, I believe that this is a great opportunity to engage more community. For example, sending out that email to invite them to participate in the BMA and culture of VCI, and of course the part of revisiting the best time and date to meet at the VCI. I believe that it's going to be part of the agenda for this Tuesday. So maybe merging the two will make the participation of the people that are on Basecamp but are not actually part of any work group or task force is going to present us all great benefits. Like, the opportunity is there to tap into it and to call for them to have more community engagement and more ownership and more identity of participating in one of these groups. So yeah, I think it will happen. And for sure it's going to be part of the agenda, no? I believe that has already been established, the doodling to get the best time and date.
I feel disappointed in myself, because I suggested that we really needed to have rounds, because now I'm understanding, and more, that the spontaneous discussion, I understand it better. So I think it is good that we're just popping in. I don't think any of us are shy either. So hope you'll bear with me in my balance between wanting to stick to certain ways and then going, oh yeah, now I understand. So I'm letting you get to know me better. But I am feeling like we have something that is, I guess we have 22 minutes left, and something that's never been suggested in sociocracy is maybe just taking a moment of silence, or, we've been going for over an hour. Supposedly your brain can only really function for half an hour without a break. We didn't talk about a break. And I wonder, I don't know how to, if who would object to maybe having a moment of silence, or however any of us need to just kind of get our brain back in sync, because I'm kind of feeling a little off center, a tiny bit.
Yeah, absolutely. If you would like to propose that we take a moment or two, are you literally speaking of 60 to 120 seconds?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Then let's go ahead and do that. And we will just take a 2-minute breather. And I would suggest that if people are up for it, that they literally take a minimum of 3 long, deep breaths.
Okay, I'll be the timekeeper.
Okay, good.
Starting now.
Okay. And we are back after that 2 minutes. Thank you, Patricia. That is very helpful. It is always helpful to take a breath. All right, are we ready? We have passed the points in our agenda. I probably want to make one change to the agenda, which is to not begin collecting questions. We sort of did that, Jorge, in your example. I feel like people know how that's going to happen, and so we don't really need to do that. But I would like to back up to the question, does everyone consent to using this proposal forming process at this time and get a formal? All right. Okay, excellent. Then we will be presenting that. Yay, yes, we will present that, and we will use a style very similar to what we did today, and we will ask that each of you participate. So if there is something specific that you would like to share, please think about that before Tuesday evening. And maybe on Monday, I will ping everyone here, and if there's something specific that you want to make sure that we cover in a little bit more detail, or that you would like to cover, that we'll get that into the agenda on Monday. Okay, our next meeting, how often do you think this group should be meeting through this process? And I guess, should we do a round about this, or should we do a pop-up about this? I don't know what the opposite of a, or the other way other than a round. I don't know what language is used for that.
Well, we're kind of developing a proposal, aren't we?
For how often we meet?
Right.
Yes.
And I forget how you start proposal forming. That was something in that class I could never figure out. Like, how do you start with a naked proposal? So, I mean, you have a question. So I'm just wondering, could the proposal be, you just make a proposal and then see what people's reactions are? Or what do you think, Jorge?
Yeah, well, I consider that we're not actually running on sociocracy as a governance yet. We're test running it, right?
Right, exactly.
And even when we are running, if agreed and consented to sociocracy as our governance, there are things that shouldn't be running the process. That's or not shouldn't. They could be run with the proposal process or not. Depends on the magnitude of the project. Let's say the meeting right now, it would be like, okay, let's do a proposal. So let's start asking questions. Do we want to meet to work together? You know, how often should we meet if we would want to meet? You know, all of these things can get like too exhausting. Yeah. So we already know that we want to be part of a work group. And since we're test running it with our first proposal to see if sociocracy makes a good debut, I would suggest, it's a suggestion, maybe skip the sociocracy proposal for this and just assume that we need to because we're making a proposal, and just go doodle it. Just like to say, okay, for the sake of this proposal, because this work group, I believe it started because of this proposal at the moment. So for the duration of this proposal of the VMA, how often should we meet? And when is the best time? And the best tool we have, maybe it's not sociocracy, maybe it's doodle at the moment.
Right, and I think that we need to meet sometime after Tuesday and sometime before the next Tuesday. Preferably between Tuesday and Saturday so that the next agenda for VCI can be done on Monday and get out a day before that meeting. Well, so we could actually meet up until, midday on Monday so that we can get that agenda out. So I would suggest that we meet sometime between Wednesday and Monday, and I'm happy to put a doodle out, and I will include a whole bunch of times and days. I'm not available on Wednesday, so there won't be a day on Wednesday, but I will include, I won't start times before 9 a.m. Pacific, and I will include at least some days that have 8 p.m. times. So they'll be somewhere between 9 a.m. Pacific, which is 12 noon Eastern, and 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'll just look at the calendar and put a bunch of those out, and we'll figure it out over the next few days. And what timing, I did not put a time to close on the last doodle. And then I felt kind of awkward because I kept waiting for the last people to come up. So what is, for this, I don't know, 48 hours enough to do the doodle? 72 at the outside?
Sounds like we have a proposal.
Sorry? Look.
It sounds like we have a wonderful proposal.
Yeah, it is. You're right. The proposal, I think 48 hours means before Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Like at Monday night. I think that's good enough.
Okay.
No, I think she's asking when to close off the doodle.
Right.
So that would be Monday night?
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
I think.
If I do it this afternoon, then it would be by Monday night that everyone would need to get back. So that would give people all day Sunday and all day Monday. Okay. All right. Then I will put a doodle out yet this afternoon.
All right.
So I think the proposal is just that, I'm sorry, Jorge, go ahead.
I just wanted to, I don't know, it's not related to this doodle. It's about some questions of Jessica in the chat box. Should we go quickly through them after your question?
Patricia? I didn't have the chat open. I am so sorry.
Okay. But first, Patricia, do you want to ask something about the doodle?
Oh, no, I just wanted to see if we could come to, since we have 10 minutes left, but it sounds, that if we could just quickly consent to that proposal. But if Jessica has something to say, see if there's ask for consent.
The proposal of the doodle?
The doodle, and also to that, we're going to meet we're going to meet at least, we don't know how often we're going to meet, but we definitely want to meet another time within a week. Before that, then after the next meeting, before the meeting, and we'll give people 48 hours to respond to the doodle. I think that's what the proposal is. So can we? All right.
Okay. Perfect.
That's when it works, when we can just, okay.
Excellent. So the Jessica question number 1 is does the 3.0 has MVC? You know about that better, no, Patricia? About the MVC integration by the people of SOFA?
They integrated in SOFA, but they don't really integrate it. My experience was I didn't experience it in the class, so they don't talk about it a lot. And I would say it's almost like I see sociocracy as more of an umbrella because it's been talked about as a tool. Consent, decision-making is definitely a tool. Sociocracy is the form of governance that helps us all connect. And Doodle is in that. And maybe that's something to be talked about at some point. Because if, and NVC, I really think it just needs to be an agreement within this our governance system that we are going to use MVC. And so not all sociocracy groups might emphasize MVC, but we can decide that that is part of our value or a skill we need to learn, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Since it's open source, no, it can It's not like it's either sociocracy or NVC.
Right.
No, it is connectivity. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, open source gives you that option to be inclusive. And does that answer the question of Jessica? You're there, huh? Yeah. Okay. Cool. And which other one? The vision and mission are kind of combined in one document on the CH homepage. Yeah. Okay. So the idea is to try to connect the human element to the project. So it's not like replacing the vision and mission of the Climate Healers website. It's more the integrating from the CVI. Integrating, I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's more like, who are we in this project? Like, who are we as volunteers or whatever? It's not talking about the project itself, like Climate Healers is this, no? It's more like, we volunteers are part of the VCI to serve perhaps the vision and mission of Climate Healers. See, like, it's like, again, like how do we connect to that vision and mission? Yes.
Yes,
Right.
and that's because each circle has its own vision, mission, and you know, its own domain and its own vision. So within, but it has to go along with that bigger mission. That's
So,
how.
so the vision and mission that are written on the Climate Healers website will inform the VCI vision and the mission. So they don't exist completely separately. They're integrated, they're linked, VCI is in service to Vegan World 2026. And because all of those people were not connected to making the vision, to writing the vision and mission, they need to write their own to feel that personal connection, and to very clearly show how each of these circles supports the next circle up, if that all makes sense. I think the three of us just said the same thing in three slightly different ways, but okay.
You'll understand. Hey, I was wondering, I don't know can we take at least the last 3 minutes to reflect on the meeting and celebrate and just connect in that way, heart to heart?
Yeah, that's the last thing is our thank you and checkout. And
okay, great.
Says that we have 6 minutes left, but
Okay.
I don't know if my clock is, that's my iPhone, so I pretend.
Well, it's correct. I just didn't know if we had more stuff to talk about, and I forgot that was on the agenda. I'm sorry.
Nope, that's, no, I think, and Jessica, I think if you had a comment, it was earlier, or do you still have another comment to make?
I was going to say thank you, Patricia, Jorge, and Ann for the explanation there of the vision, mission, and aims. I didn't know what you were saying before, but now I do. So thank you.
So that's really important for us to make sure that we say that to the full VCI, so that is not a question, or so that we answer that question for other people as well. So yes, I want to thank everyone for coming, and we'd like to do a checkout round. And the checkout question that I came up with was just share a word or phrase or sentence about what you are leaving this meeting with. And we have 5 minutes, and we have, what, 6 people? 7 people. So you can take almost a minute, 45 seconds, long time if you want. Okay, Patricia, would you like to start?
Okay, I'll try myself. Except for, never mind. Yeah, I am leaving with a great sense of satisfaction, joy, gratefulness that I can be myself and make mistakes and be kind of picky and then say I'm sorry, and people aren't like, really, like, who is she? Okay, I have distress around that. So I feel a sense of healing too. That's healing the trauma of bad experiences with groups.
Oh,
I'm complete.
well, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Jorge?
Okay, I believe that we are all here for the same purpose, and we're just finding our way to coordinate. And this meeting felt like a catalyst for that to happen. Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of this. And have a great Saturday. Keep having one.
All right, Shankar?
Yes. Yeah, I enjoyed interacting and it helped me to answer some of the questions in my mind. And it also gave even more hope how things will get together and how things will form and how the platform is laid for a lot of future members and everything. I really like that.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Jessica?
I'm excited to see what all we do next in this group and the whole Vegan World 2026. And it does seem to be that things are really coming together in a great way. I love it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Suzanne?
I also feel hopeful and like things are coming together in a good way. And I like the idea of this meeting being a catalyst. It does feel like we have something to try, and that's exciting.
Benjamin?
Yeah, I really feel like we created a safe space here today that everyone was able to be, from my perspective, it felt like everyone was heard and everyone's questions were addressed in a way that I have not experienced before. And I can already see that sociocracy is helping us, even though we're just talking about sociocracy. It's helped us talk about sociocracy, and I'm really grateful for all of you and the direction, and I'm excited for the direction that we're headed.
All right. Well, Patricia, Jorge, Shankar, Jessica, Suzanne, Benjamin, I am really deeply grateful for taking the time to figure this out. And I used in one of the groups the other day the idea of building a foundation. And I really feel like this is building a foundation, and it's just not, it's not pretty, it's not fun, it's kind of hard, it's a little awkward, but that's what's necessary in order to get us to move. And so I think that first, whole row of bricks is laying, Jorge, so that, now we can see something that's possible, where before it was just an idea. Now we've got this vision, and Jorge, it's largely due to the work that you have done recently with the whole proposal process and walking us through that and making sure that we are very clear about what it is that we're doing. So I'm just really excited to see where this goes. And I think it will go I believe it will go much faster as we get more competent as a group. And it just takes a little bit to do that. So thank you for a really good Saturday afternoon. It is exactly 3:30 on the East Coast. And so we are going to make our time, and we will get an agenda out, like I said, that will look very similar to this one for VCI for Tuesday evening. And I'll get a doodle out in the next hour or so for this group to meet again. So you guys have a great Saturday, no matter what time it is where you are. And yes, let's keep co-creating and thriving. Absolutely. All right. Bye-bye.